Hello and welcome. This session is being recorded. My name is Haley Sampson and I am the moderator for this ADEIL conference session. Before we begin, on behalf of ADEIL, I'd like to thank our generous sponsor Noodle and our host Old Dominion University. We are thankful for their contributions in making this event possible. This year at the ADEIL conference, we are randomly selecting winners at each conference session for prizes. And today the winner of the prize at this session is Gabby Hubner Noblet. Gabby, welcome. I hope that you can hear me. If you will please put your name and a good contact email for you in the chat, that would be wonderful. Thanks again. Thank you for joining us for this session titled Textbook Treasure Hunt: Uncovering Affordable Options for Students, the Role of Faculty and Learning Design in AI-Powered Education. At this time, I'd like to give Kira Heske, Anna Uribe, and Lindsay Devine the room.
All right, thank you so much, Haley. Yes, welcome to our presentation today, Textbook Treasure Trove: Uncovering Affordable Options for Students. Anna? Okay, you got it, great. My name is Kira Heske, and I'm the Associate Director of Learning Support at the University of Arizona Global Campus, and I oversee the Writing Center, Library, and Tutoring supports at that university.
Hi, everyone. I am Anna Uribe, and I am the Lead Instruction Librarian at UAGC, and I oversee Library Liaison Support for Curriculum Development.
Hi, and I'm Lindsay Devine, Senior Director of Learning Resources and Products for UAGC. And this involves overseeing a custom textbook publishing team, the procurement and distribution of third-party content, essentially our bookstore, and a suite of e-reader and publishing applications.
All right, thanks. So I'm going to go ahead and get us kicked off and draw us directly into the theme of this conference, AI in Education, by starting us off with a ChatGPT prompt. I'm sure you're all very familiar with ChatGPT by now. And so I asked ChatGPT to list the top 5 reasons to adopt an affordable textbook focus in higher education. And I will say that ChatGPT did a great job with the 5 choices. So I will kind of go through them because, you know, these 5 really do help to inform why we're doing this, and to a large extent is a driver for why we're doing this initiative. So number 1, first and foremost, is cost savings. By using affordable textbooks, low cost or no cost textbooks and courses, rather than the traditional textbooks, very expensive textbooks, it helps to reduce the financial burden on students who oftentimes have competing priorities for their money, and it really can be a very substantial burden to students and could be a barrier to them continuing on in their education. The other reason is because of the increased accessibility. When you use low cost or no cost texts in courses, you're providing all students with the same experience. It's creating more equity in the course because students, there isn't going to be a barrier between those that can afford the materials and those that can't. And so it really helps to level the playing field for all students in the course. The next reason is improved academic performance. If students have all of the resources that they need in the course ready to go and they don't have to worry about affording them, they're more likely to stay in the course and be able to complete all of the assignments for the course. And going hand in hand with that is reducing dropout rates. So if a student doesn't have that financial burden where they had to make the choice, oh gosh, I really just can't afford to buy this textbook, you know, the chances are that they won't feel as likely to drop out because they don't have the resources they need to succeed. So it helps to reduce dropout rates because they're not falling behind. And then the final reason is faculty flexibility. Faculty that are given many options outside of just the traditional textbook world really can feel empowered to be able to make a more informed decision based upon their course learning outcomes, what is the best resource for their course, regardless of trying to stick with the traditional textbook publishers. So we'll get into that faculty flexibility aspect in a little bit because that does play a key role in our initiative as well. All right, we'll start with the agenda. We are going to start with definitions just to make sure that everybody's on the same page and understand some of the terms that we'll be using. Then we'll get into the why. Why is UAGC engaging in this initiative? And then I'll share with you our current strategy. And then we'll talk about our future plans. We do have some ways that we're hoping to expand what we're currently doing. And then we're going to do a call to action for all of you and provide hopefully a nice framework for you to be able to implement a low cost or a no cost resource program at your own institution. And then finally, we'll end with some Q&A. I wanted to provide just a quick snapshot of the university that we serve, UAGC. We are part of the University of Arizona system, and we are a fully online institution with a current enrollment of 24,000 students. And we very proudly serve a post-traditional population of students that are primarily adult learners. And we do gear our services and supports specifically to meet those students where they are and provide them the supports that they need to succeed whenever they need that support. And so just wanted to give you a snapshot of our demographic data real quickly, just to kind of inform who we're talking about here, who this program is serving. All right, we're ready for the next slide. And I'm going to hand it over to Anna now, who's going to share some definitions with you.
All right, thanks, Kira. So I just want to run over some definitions real quickly, just to make sure that when we talk about all the different options we have for providing low and no cost resources to students, we know all the different modalities. So first we have our library collections. For us at UAGC, that means access to over 90 subscription databases. And these databases are going to link to thousands of scholarly journals, ebooks, videos, reference books, case studies, etc., much, much more. Next up, we have OER. I'm sure folks have probably at least heard that acronym. That stands for Open Educational Resources. These are going to be resources that can vary in format, anything from a single lesson to an entire textbook, and they're going to be free for faculty and students to use, customize, and share. Next up, we have open access, sometimes abbreviated as OA. Open access items usually include scholarly books and journals and journal articles, and these are also available free of charge to the general public. However, they don't have some of the same capabilities such as customization and sharing as OER does. Finally, we have affordable educational materials, that's AER. The cost of these materials can run from $0 to $50. In our case, these are things that could be found in the library, the open web, or even from your traditional textbook vendors. The types of use of these materials are very specific, depending on the permissions set by the vendor. So you always have to be mindful of what their rules of use are. Some examples of AER materials include things like ebooks, videos, reference books, peer articles, scholarly journals, and a whole bunch more. And with that, we would really appreciate your engagement in a quick poll. So you can answer this poll on your phone or in a different browser tab on your computer. You can either scan this QR code or just go to menti.com. That's MENTI.com and enter this code 49226146. And we've got those directions up on the screen in case you didn't catch that. So we just have a simple multiple choice question for you. Which of the following is an example of OER? Is it going to be using an ebook from the library instead of a textbook? Is it going to be using articles from open access sites like doaj.org or Doge? Or is it going to be more like using a textbook from a site like openstacks.org with a CC BY by license? Okay, awesome. I see we have 4 votes, and I know we have 15 participants. So I know it's possibly you may be multitasking, but I would love if you could pick up your phone or open up another browser tab and cast your vote. Which one is which? And it's okay if you get it wrong. Don't be embarrassed. It's anonymous. And I just want to put out there that one of the reasons we ask this is because OER is so often used as a blanket term, and we want to make sure that you understand what it really means. Okay. So, all right, I guess we'll settle with 4 votes. But hey, the good news is congratulations, you all got it right. So OER is going to be something where you have something like a CC BY license where you're allowed to redistribute, remix, reuse. Unlike things from maybe the library or even Doge, where sure you can link to it, but you know, the way other ways of using it are very let's say restricted. So you can only use it in certain ways. And again, the reason why we want to touch base on this is because OER sometimes is used as a blanket term for all affordable course resource options, which can lead to confusion when stakeholders such as librarians, bookstores, faculty, and leadership are working together. And so being clear about the specific method you're using to provide savings can prevent duplicative work and streamline the curation process. And with that, I will go ahead. Thank you all so much for engaging with that poll. We will have another one coming up, so you'll get a chance to participate again. And with that, I'll hand it back over to Kira.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Anna. Okay, I want to get into the why a little bit now so you can understand why we're engaging in this affordable textbook initiative at UAGC. So the library and the learning resources team, and by the way, learning resources at UAGC is another term for, or it's kind of a catch-all for all of our bookstore resources. So it's either the library resources or bookstore resources. So the library and the learning resources teams have teamed up, and we have begun a joint initiative to expand the adoption of low or zero textbook costs in courses. And the reason for this, there's 2 different drivers for this. One of them is our culture of care. At UAGC, we really, it's pervasive within all of what we do. We really try to strive to have a culture of care. And what that means is that we want to provide unconditional student support to all students at UAGC that is rooted in academic challenge. But in doing so, we want to help to ease the stress of external demands on students by showing them additional paths to academic success. And one of those paths that we're trying to find and trying to adopt more and more is by helping students to reduce that financial burden on them, because having a no-cost pathway to accessing needed or required course materials is really showing the culture of care and really caring for our students and making sure that they have what they need to be able to participate in the course fully. The other reason is because we have critical goals at UAGC. We actually have 4 of them, but there's really 3 here that align very closely with what we're doing, the work we're doing here. So I'll kind of walk you through those 3 critical goals. The first critical goal that this pertains to is retaining students during their first year of enrollment. So again, if we're reducing their financial burden in each course, and by the way, students take 1 course at a time at UAGC. They're about 5 weeks long for undergraduate and 6 weeks for graduate. And so they're continuously having to purchase either purchase textbooks or get them in their courses for free or low cost. So that's one of the reasons why we're really working on this, is because every 5 weeks students are faced with the same responsibility of coming up with more funds to pay for books, or again, in the case of courses that have them already in the courses for free, then the students will have access day 1. So we really want to retain those students and help them get through each one of their courses without having this additional burden on them. The other critical goal it supports is supporting the completion of programs and educational goals driven by student-based timelines. So we want to retain them And we want them to complete those programs that they start. Again, along the way, just continuing to support those students in their goals. And then the final one is enhancing students' economic return. So by lowering our overhead costs for students during their time of enrollment, we're increasing their ROI. We're increasing their return on the investment that they're receiving from their degree. So you can measure the expense that you spent as a student. You can measure the expense that you incurred towards your degree against the post-degree salary that you attain. And so the lower that number is while they're enrolled, the higher the ROI is in their career salary job. So that's another reason why we are doing this. And this is the current state. This is where we're at as of today. 21% of our 21% of our courses are no cost right now to students as far as the resources in the course. No additional cost for textbooks or course resources. 9% of our courses have a low cost or affordable AER, which we define as anywhere from $1 to $50 for the student for that course. So that is our current state, but we want to expand that. We're definitely looking to expand that, and we are going to be doing so with the following initiatives, the following practices that we are adopting. So the first one is we love partnering with faculty, and we want them to feel empowered. So at UAGC, we have a model that there's various stakeholders that all work together during a course development or revision. And the library and the learning resources team are partners in every single course that's developed. And what we do is we work with the faculty, and we make sure that they are fully aware of all of the different options available to them during the course development process. And we really encourage them to go with library or OER resources over textbook fees whenever humanly possible. Sometimes it's not possible, but whenever it's possible, whenever there is the ability to support the course learning outcomes effectively with lower or no cost options, we really encourage faculty to do that rather than to use a textbook that costs money to the students. And the UAGC bookstore learning resources, they do a fantastic job of letting the faculty know all of the cost information up front so they can make the most informed decision that they can and meet those LOs of the course while considering expenses to students. So I did throw in another tie-in to the conference theme here about AI and education. I wanted to make sure that we kept that in mind as we're developing this presentation. So I did do something which I found to be really fun, which is I asked ChatGPT to help me with my OER resource curation. So those of you that are not aware that ChatGPT can perform such a service, I actually found it to do a pretty darn good job. So what I asked was, provide me a list of 5 OER textbooks on the topic of business ethics and social responsibility. And I even gave ChatGPT 5 specific course learning outcomes that I pulled directly from one of our courses and provided that in the prompt. And ChatGPT came back with 5 resources that actually looked relevant. They looked really good. And one of the things I will say is it is extraordinarily important with all generative AI and anytime you use ChatGPT or any other AI to do your due diligence. So even though these look really good as a starting place and could potentially be a good match, one of these could really be a good fit, it's really important that you review every one of those resources that ChatGPT gives you to make sure that it is actually relevant to what you're looking for, that it does in fact align with the course learning outcomes, that the copyright is in fact what ChatGPT says it is, that it is a CC BY license, for example, if you're looking for OER, that it is a high quality resource, that it's recent, all the things that you would look for as a faculty member or a librarian. You want to make sure that it meets all of those standards, and accessibility also, that's another one. And Anna will get into that a little bit more later, but you just want to make sure that you are doing your due diligence to make sure that you're reviewing that resource. So that is all I'll say on that one. So we are moving on to the next slide, and that is how we're leveraging the library currently. We have we're using the term library link swap project, which is probably not the fanciest name available, but that's what we've been engaging in. And I really want to spend a little bit of time on this slide to because I do feel like this is something that other institutions can take on as well and to do with their own institutions. It has been a really valuable project for us, and valuable in that it's been really helping students. And so what we've been doing is we've been taking the list of all of the currently used textbooks in all of the courses at UAGC, and we're comparing them, what students are currently paying for those textbooks, and we're comparing them to both what is already currently available in the library and also what resources are available for library purchase. So, instead of having the students pay for the text, can the library buy it and make it available to all students? And so students wouldn't have any additional cost to that. And so it's a really valuable way to go, because then instead of just being just for those students and they're paying for it in the class, it's available to all students. And so one of the things to keep in mind, if you do this, if you do decide to compare your textbooks against what's available for purchase in the library, you want to make sure that you are getting it in an unlimited user model, especially if you're going to be using it for the course. You have to make sure that all students simultaneously can access that resource. So ask your vendors, ask your ebook suppliers to make sure that this is an unlimited user model when you're looking to purchase. So that actually leads me to bullet point number 1, that secondary bullet in there where it says leverage ebook suppliers. I can't stress this enough. Your ebook suppliers, whether that be eBook Central, EBSCO eBooks, Taylor and Francis, whoever you use, it benefits them to help you and to do the legwork for you. So put them to work. So if you give them a list, even if it's hundreds of textbooks long, and trust me, I've done that to them before, even give them a huge list of textbooks and say, hey, are any of these available for the library to purchase? And they will be more than happy to provide you a full list of all of the books that are available and how much they cost, and they will be happy to invoice you for that. And it's just a really easy way to go to be able to see which textbooks can be replaced by library purchases. And so we've done that numerous times, and it's worked out really well. Another way you can go is you can access the ebook catalogs yourself through your admin accounts. So if you have, like I said, eBook Central is the big one, or EBSCO eBooks, all of them have their own admin accounts where you can access the catalog and search yourself. One of the benefits of that is that you would have immediate access to that textbook or that ebook. As soon as you hit purchase, the vendors make it immediately available to you, and you can link to it and share it with faculty, which is a really nice benefit. And I usually do it that way, that method, if I have a one-off request. If Learning Resources comes to me and says, hey, do you happen to have this book available for purchase? I can do a quick look and see if that's available, and then we could purchase it on the spot. And the third way that we've used is Gobi. So Gobi is an online platform through EBSCO, made available through EBSCO, and they're an aggregator. So they basically compile 25 different publishers, and they will make available, they show you every place that particular ebook is available, and then you could decide, you can compare prices, you can see which platforms you already have access to that are, and for ease, I definitely recommend going with a database that you already have in your library, so you don't have to do any more, authentications or any other access points for that. There already be an established access point. So whenever possible, you'll want to use what you already have, whatever accounts you already have with whatever vendors. So that would be the next way, Gobi. And so far, just in the last year, I would say it's been since August. Actually, we didn't even start in August. I think it was like later in the fall of 2022, we started this. And so far, we've removed $95,000 in student fees. So that's student costs for textbooks in courses. So we're really dedicated to increasing that number all the time. All right, next slide, thank you. And now we're gonna hand it over to Lindsay, who's gonna be talking about how we're empowering students. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, so less about a direct reduction in expenses here. These efforts are focusing on setting up students for success and ensuring agency for them to prepare and make some decisions. At UAGC, we employ an inclusive access model, sometimes referred to as an institutional pay or 100% digital model, where we purchase required resources for all students in all courses, so that rather than students choosing whether or not to order the material and where they're going to do that and when to make sure they have resources before the course starts. They're charged a variable materials fee alongside tuition. And this way, all students have day one access to their required course materials without having to do anything. This also means that students can use financial aid to pay for resources rather than paying out of pocket. And because of this setup, we have an obligation to be transparent on these fees, so students can plan for these instructional supplies costs. We also want to ensure that students have the ability and know how to opt out, so that if, and while it's uncommon, because we price at or below market rate, students can procure their resources elsewhere at a lower cost, they are able to do so. So we've talked about supporting and encouraging faculty in selecting open resources, leveraging our library resources, finding low-cost traditional resources. But what if there is a need or desire to curate or create OER to meet a really specific need or vision of a course? As I mentioned in our introduction, we have an internal publishing team that has developed over 180 first editions and revised textbooks since our inception in 2010. So we're able to leverage this team and their professional skills and processes to curate and develop OER where the need arises. A current reader in development is for Gen 104, one of our Gen Ed courses, where faculty wanted to use a selection of OER and library readings, which are currently in various locations, with original content to better introduce and contextualize the readings. So we'll help them create this reader, this content package, and deliver it through our proprietary e-reader to not only provide a consistent student experience from course to course in the Gen Ed series, but also allow them to read, annotate all of their readings in a single location. Okay, so looking ahead, where do we go from here? Well, we are, of course, evaluating how to further deliver on everything we've mentioned, how to increase scope in these efforts. Particularly related to OER, we are using past and current projects in development to continue to understand costs and resources and timelines involved, so that we can create and distribute a more robust OER catalog. We're also considering how to contribute a selection of the full-length textbooks in our catalog into OER repositories. And so then looking into what will be involved in that, such as rights management considerations, maintenance after those materials are contributed, tracking adoptions, et cetera. And then finally, and something I'm personally excited for, is instituting an OER incentive program, which, depending on the funding we're able to secure, could include tactics that some other institutions have or are implementing, such as faculty stipends to just further encourage the time and resources it takes to adopt and curate OER, as well as a catalog badging system, so that we could indicate in the course catalog no and low cost resource courses. And now I'm going to hand it back over to Anna.
Thank you so much, Lindsay. Okay, again, we would love to know how you are providing affordable resources at your institution. So again, we've got a happy little poll here for everyone to give a shot. You can use this QR code, or you can go to menti.com and enter the code 49226146 to respond. And it's just an open text response. And we just want to know, what are you working on? And if it's if AER is something you're interested in, but you haven't gotten started yet, we still want to hear from you, and what you envision working on. And I'll go ahead and we will wait for some response. Let's see. So they're coming in. Be interesting to know where you are in the process. Are you like us, where you're in process? It's not completely tied up in a nice bow and you're reporting on the maybe outcomes. Maybe you are at that outcome stage. Maybe you're just getting started. Maybe you're not even thinking about it yet. That's okay. And you're just curious about what's going on in this world. Oh, that's great. Sharing the wonderful OER, OA, and AER resource guide with our associate faculty. That's excellent. I know we developed such a guide that kind of goes over some of those definitions we talked about earlier in this presentation. Not only describes what these different options are, but also where to find them. You know, if maybe I'm a faculty and I'm like, you know, I don't want to take the time to do any remediation I might need to do to OER. And you know what? I'm happy to take something as is. I don't need to remix it. I don't want to hold on to it. Great. I know that I can just go look in the library or maybe even Google Scholar or doaj.org to find what I need. So it kind of gives folks different pathways to these types of resources. Okay. I do see we have 17 participants. I'd love if we could at least get one more response. I'm sorry to call you all out like that. I do this in my doctoral presentations. I call out my doctoral students and say, hey, I see how many there are of you. You have to answer my poll. Oh my goodness. Okay, so wow, you got a mini grant. That's excellent. Wow. Oh, that's excellent. And so that sort of lit a fire, right? That's so fantastic. If you'd be willing to share in the chat where you got that grant from or anything, you know, how did you apply for that? That is so exciting. Congratulations. And we're excited to investigate some of those sort of grant options ourselves. So we'd love to learn more about that as well. That's so great. That's so exciting to make an OER. That's fantastic. Okay, well, in the interest of your time, everyone's time is valuable. We will go ahead and keep on keeping on. Thank you though for participating. All right. So we're starting to wrap things up here with our call to action. I just wanted to share some helpful tips, things that have worked for us. So starting off by contacting your librarians early, maybe your library liaisons or subject librarian. They want to help, but gathering resources takes time. So there's a lot to consider. And the earlier you get involved, the better. Go to your librarians with your course learning outcomes. We want to make sure we find the best fit for your course. So please provide them with up-to-date CLOs and any additional direction that you think would be helpful. And then let's think about a few things you want to consider when it comes to affordable options. First and foremost, it's got to support your CLO, your course learning outcome. If it doesn't support it, I know OER is really exciting and there's a lot of motivation to include it, but we don't want to just sort of stick it in a course for the sake of saying, check, we have OER. We want it, it's got to support the learning outcomes, right? So another thing to consider is where are you going to house OER or OA or any of these materials? Is it something that can live in the course? Do you need a repository? Do you have it? Are there any conditions for remixing or reusing the content you want to use? Sometimes, depending on the Creative Commons license, it can be, you can share this, you don't have to attribute to us, you can do whatever you want with it. Sometimes there are other rules, like you can use this and you can remix it, but you have to designate it as share alike 2, and you can't use it for commercial purposes, and you have to attribute us. So these are really important considerations to keep in mind and make sure that you're staying in line with the copyright rules for these resources. Another consideration is, does it support diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives you're working on? And something that sort of wraps in and ties into that is accessibility. whatever you want to use, you want to make sure that it's going to work with a screen reader, that it's going to have an audio function. So this can be a little tricky to guarantee in the case of OER. So just keep that in mind and schedule in some extra time if you need to remediate any materials. And then finally, if you can't find it, if it's just not out there, is there a way to create it? Can you work with another team like Learning Resources or your UAG or your bookstore, and maybe create a packet or a reader or something like that to sort of make it easier to deliver to students. Okay, whoopsie daisy. Sorry, gang. I passed our Q&A slide. And with that, we have time for questions and answers. Sorry, I think we went a little bit over our time, but we still have some time for Q&A. So we'd love to hear from you. Go ahead and if you want, you can use the hand raise function, or you can let us know in chat. I'm going to see if I can open my chat screen without it appearing on the screen I'm sharing. And yes, I can. That's exciting. Okay, so yeah, any questions you have, feel free to ask in chat.
I could kick things off with a question about, the biggest constraints or barriers that you're experiencing here in this arena. So what do you see as the biggest constraints or barriers to adopting affordable resource options in each of your respective areas?
That is a great question, Haley. I'll take that one first. I would say I probably have two barriers that are they're not insurmountable barriers, but they do create challenges. And one of them has come about with the library link swap project that I mentioned. We were quite ambitious in our pursuit of replacing textbook costs with library resources, but in order to do that, so the purchases were made, but the next step is that we have to have our CS team or our technical team switch out all of those links in the courses and the Canvas course LMSs, the LMS Canvas, going into each one of those courses and making those link switches. And it's just a lot of time and effort and to do that. And there's, a lot of bandwidth issues with a project like that. And so we just have to be patient, and they have, they got through everything that we asked them to do, but it does take a while to get through all of that and be able to support that team and make sure that we're not overwhelming them with our requests. So that's one barrier. And then I'd say the other one is certainly not insurmountable either, but it's just, sometimes locating the budget for new acquisitions for the library can be a challenge, but with the offset of the cost for students, we are prioritizing doing it, even though sometimes we don't anticipate that we are going to be finding and procuring as many ebooks as we have been doing. So luckily it hasn't been an issue, but it is definitely something that we need to continue to consider going forward, is whether we have sufficient budget to cover all of these ebook switches. So that would be it for me. Anybody else? Anna or Lindsay?
I have a question. Oh, sorry.
And Linda, I'm really glad you have a question, because we want participation, but I just want to make sure that did I cover all the bases, Lindsay and Anna? Is there anything else you would add on to that?
I would say just making sure that folks understand permissions and what you can do with what types of materials, but that's easy enough to sort of inform people on. So, and people usually figure it out once they find something they want to use and use it in a certain way, and they get told, no, you have to use something different. They go, oh, I'm not doing that again. So they figure out the right resource to use with the right type of license.
And I'll just add, that while these resources can be completely free to use, we all know that it still takes some time and resources to find them and curate them and deliver them and host them and all of those sorts of things. So like we're talking about in the chat, we're looking into ways to, further fund those efforts, incentivize faculty to engage. Yeah. Linda?
Yeah, so my question is towards the data that you're able to collect or measure. So like, are you finding students are actually using these books? Are you finding, like, if they didn't have access to these books, would the student have dropped? And what are these books in comparison to the more expensive books? Are you getting any of that data through like a survey through the students who are actually going in and utilizing these resources in these classrooms?
That is currently on our roadmap for this year. We're looking at doing exactly that. We have a lot of data at our fingertips in terms of student usage. So what we'd like to do is, right now we've based a lot of our initiatives on external research that has been done to show that these resources are high quality, help students succeed, that the economic, removing the economic barrier has value, but we'd like to show at our institution, you know, a before and after, a course that is used, maybe a more traditional, higher paying resource, and student success rates and student activity and then compare that to after we've replaced those materials with some of these lower cost options. I think to add here,
once you get that, it could help push the incentivized, you know, initiatives, right? Especially the stipends for the faculty.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, to show the proof at our institution that these efforts are worth it. Absolutely.
Right. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, great point, Linda. Thank you. I think you covered it, Lindsay. Any other questions? This has been great. Nothing else?
Sorry if I
yeah,
missed it,
sure.
but did you say these are the OER resources were for primarily online courses or face-to-face courses, or is it simply a combination of courses?
That is a great question. We are fully online institution, so all of these are asynchronous in a virtual environment courses. So yeah, fully online.
Okay.
All right. But this could work in a in a brick and mortar as well. As I meant, the slides kind of go over it, but I definitely encourage you, even if you are in a brick and mortar institution, to check out some of those tips that we have, because I think that a lot of these tips could be universally applied, but hopefully.
Sure. I'm quite impressed that you guys have such a large percentage of OER.
Thank you.
We've been trying to do that at our institution, but it's so difficult to get buy-in.
It is. Yeah, we've been taking it on a roadshow and trying to promote it for many years. And I feel like we're getting to the point where at least we have good faculty awareness and of the importance of it. And we are getting larger buy-in, you know, as time goes on. So yeah, I appreciate the struggle with that one for sure.
I think I missed it also. So for the institutions that are offering these mini grants, we're talking like $1,000, a couple $1,000 to the faculty in order, or like a release time, or what is that grant based on?
Great question.
No, I don't know if anybody who mentioned in the chat that they've actually received one of these grants wants to speak to their experience. The research I've done is, yes, exactly that, where they're able to apply for a mini grant that's usually between like $1,000 and maybe $2,500 to adopt an OER resource for their course. So what we're looking into is, you know, okay, how could we at UAGC fund those mini grants? Is that through internal or external funding? Are we seeking larger grants to then fund, you know, these mini grants? That's what my research has shown. And it seems like many institutions are using this strategy. So it's great to hear that some people in the audience have actually received some.
Yeah, that's cool. So they're using external grants then, or internal?
Well, I'm not sure about, I think each institution is probably funding their mini grant program differently.
Right.
I'm not sure if
I
Richard,
see
maybe?
that, yeah, Richard, I think he got his through his institution, University of Wisconsin Security.
Right. So I work at a Cal State, and then we have a chancellor's office, and they do offer OER grants to the individual campuses, but it's not enough money to actually pay instructors to go OER. It's just enough to, you know, try to promote it a bit.
Well, yeah, that's definitely a challenge for sure. And one of the things I'll say is that oftentimes you can get support from your librarians as well at your institution. I mean, even if the funding isn't sufficient for faculty to fully engage or to do a lot of the legwork for OER, maybe until that, or if or until that happens, you can lean a little bit more on librarians to support your OER efforts, because we're taking a large part of that responsibility. I'm a librarian too, by the way. We're taking a large part of that responsibility on ourselves to curate that the OER resources for faculty so that they can select from ones that librarians have chosen from.
Okay, yeah, I might be more interested in that because we do have an OER librarian.
Oh, you should use them. Absolutely.
But yeah, she doesn't curate.
Okay.
So
maybe even your
all of the
subject
adoption-
librarian might be a good
Yeah.
person to reach out to.
Right. So we do have subject librarians as well.
Mhm.
But they don't, like examine the books or curate them to see which ones would be good fits. That's left entirely up to the faculty to do that.
Well, we're just spoiling our UAGC faculty. I hope some of you guys are listening to how lucky you are.
Well, everyone, it looks like we are at time for
Yeah.
our session today. Thank you, Kira, Anna, and Lindsay for your presentation, and to all of you for attending and engaging with this presentation. Please be sure to complete the conference evaluation. I've placed the link in the chat for you to access and use after the conference. And it looks like our conference day is quickly coming to a close. So I hope you will join us for our final closing remarks and announcements in about 15 minutes. Hope you enjoyed your conference today. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Thank you all
everyone.
for attending. Bye-bye.